Welcome to another edition of Client Success Stories. I'm Coach Jackson, and I'm joined here by Matt, the man, the myth, the legend. Matt went from skinny fat with back pain to confident and strong in just 8 months, losing 23 pounds of fat, adding on 16.6 pounds of lean mass, and cutting his body fat from a 31.7% all the way down to 18.4. And he did all of this while raising his resting metabolic rate by 150 calories a day without having to live on the tonal or in the gym. So we're going to talk through some of the highs, the lows, the playbook, the plateaus, and all the moments that hopefully made it stick. Matt, I want to say welcome and congratulations on all your success. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much, Jackson. Hi, I'm Matt. I live in LA, got 2 kids, 42 years old, and work in tech.
So Matt, you're a pretty interesting story. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on was because we have a lot of clients who they come to us and they just need to lose weight. And if they lose weight and they have a pretty good foundation already, great. They look good and fantastic. But for you, we were kind of building from the ground up. We had to build a foundation for you. We had to add on muscle. We had to reduce body fat. We had a lot of body composition changes. And really, your weight didn't change that much, which is very different than a lot of people's journeys. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on. Another one is that early on from the get-go, you're a little skeptical. Also gave us some really good constructive feedback that we were able to really improve from, which is awesome. And really, just being honest, you're one of my favorite clients now because it went from a little bit of a rocky start to a glorious finish, if you will. And I'm really feel fortunate to call you a client and a friend. And I'm just really glad that we were able to earn your trust and help you make this incredible transformation. So that's why I wanted to kind of talk to you. So let's start from the kind of the beginning and where you were at. So where were you at? You were doing P90X, CrossFit. You even had a trainer at one point. You tried the gallon of milk a day strategy, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, I tried a lot of different things. I went through multiple stints of, I think I did like three rounds of P90X. I did CrossFit with a trainer, like one-on-one for about six months. I had multiple other trainers. So, I tried a lot of different methodologies. I think and this was like going back like 10 years. This was like way before kids and all that. I think the key thing that was missing was, number one, the consistency. And frankly, the tonal makes that really, really easy. It makes it much easier than having to go to the gym. And I think the second thing that was missing was sort of a holistic plan, especially including nutrition. Like, even though I push, I push the trainers that I previously hired to provide that, I never really got like great advice on that front. And I think that was like really, really important to the transformation as well.
Yeah. And when I worked with clients in person as well, that was one of the common things. A lot of coaches and trainers, they didn't want to be bothered or didn't feel comfortable or whatever it is dealing with nutrition. And in some of the more big box gyms, they're not even allowed to guide you on nutrition other than just basic little tips and tricks. But we were able to dive in. We were able to set up a comprehensive nutritional strategy that combined with the training allowed you to obviously have the kind of success that you had. So it sounds like nutrition was a big component to that. Of course it was. It's really one of the missing elements, I think, for a lot of people. What kind of spurred this whole desire though? Like, why did you want to do all of this?
I think basically I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old daughter. And I would say, like, from the point of when the 6-year-old was born, I really stopped like exercising consistently. And I think it was like September last year when I was at my cousin's daughter's birthday, and my uncle was there. He's in his 60s and was throwing around my kids. Like, he was throwing them into this like bouncy house. And I was like, and I was looking, and he was doing this for like an hour. And I was like, if I pick up my kids for 30 seconds, my back starts to hurt. So that was sort of like the first thing. I was like, I really need to improve my fitness and my health. I'd say in addition to that, this was around the time, I don't know if you remember, there was this article that came out based on a study that showed that aging is not linear, and it actually happens in step functions, like when you're 44 and when you're like 62, something like that. And so that kind of scared me, like turning 40, turning 42, 41, 42. And I was like, I really got to do something about this. And then plus like that, kind of seeing my parents who are getting older, sort of various health problems that they've been having as they've been getting older. And then finally the DEXA scan, which I had, in January of this year, which was like way above, like the body fat was just, I just couldn't believe it. The funny thing is, when you download the DEXA report, like the first page literally has a stop sign on it and says like just take a deep breath because this is probably going to be different from what you expected, and it actually was like my body. I thought my body fat was like in the low 20%, but as it turned out, it was like close to 32. And so it was all those factors plus like had a blood test which showed that like my cholesterol wasn't great. So it's kind of all these factors really came together that motivated me to start working out and start getting healthier.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good thing that those things did come together because they did give you the drive, the push that you needed to get off your butt, get started, seek some help, and make this transformation. And maybe any one of those on their own might not have given you enough drive, but when you combine all of those, it's kind of like, wow, there's a lot of things here now adding up, and I don't like the direction this is headed. So you decided to seek help. Was this the point that you got the tone, or was this the point that you then decided to seek us out?
The funny thing is, Facebook advertising is very effective and very targeted, and I started to see ads for Tonal, and like literally the first time I saw the ad, I was like, oh, like I remember hearing about this, and I actually had a friend who used to work at the company in the very early days, and so anyway, I saw the ad and I guess I was probably still a bit on the fence of like whether to get it or not. But then simultaneously I started looking at, okay, if I do get it, who is out there who can help me like actually use it most effectively? And so that's when I came across you and yes, I think kind of those two things like that really did help catalyze purchasing the Tonal and moving forward with it.
Got it. Okay. And when we first had our first conversation, I don't know if you were necessarily skeptical, or if it was you were skeptical once we started going through the onboarding process. But talk me through that. Where was the skepticism, or what were the fears about possibly working with me?
As I said, I have worked with many trainers before and didn't really have great results. So I definitely was skeptical, and I had a bunch of questions with like a spreadsheet of all the trainers I was talking with, and like recording all the answers. But I think the thing that convinced me ultimately to hire you was really the track record. And you and I chatted about that sort of multiple times, and so I think that was really what sort of pushed me to ultimately hire you. And obviously you've had a ton of clients who have had great success, so that was really awesome to see. So that was really what motivated me to do that.
Well, I'm so glad that you trusted us with your health and your fitness, and that's obviously not something that I take lightly. We really do care about each and every one of our clients, and I mean, in some cases, not in your case, but in some cases, we want the results more than the clients they do. But in your case, we get off to a bit of a rocky start there, and you gave us some constructive feedback. And I want to be totally transparent here. I'm so glad that you did. And this is, again, how much we really care about our clients and their feedback and everything. I'm so glad that you were honest, you were upfront with us, and you gave us some feedback about our onboarding process and where it could be improved in some ways. And we made some adjustments. And here's the great thing, Matt, is that ever since we made those improvements, as clients have onboarded into our program, when I ask them questions about clarity on, who they're working with and who to contact for things and when to set up meetings or whatever, they say, everything's clear. We got it. Oh, this is great. This is amazing. And a lot of that is based on the feedback that you gave us. So I wanted to thank you for that and ask you, I guess, what gave you, because most people would just not say anything. What gave you the confidence to kind of like speak up to us and say, hey, I'm going to give them some constructive feedback?
Yeah, well, that's kind of in my nature and sort of the nature of the job that I do as well. But I mean, honestly, I was a bit nervous, like sending the feedback. I was like, oh, maybe he's just going to turn around and say, thanks, Matt, but you probably should work with a different coach. I was actually a bit nervous about that. But the fact that you had the complete opposite reaction, which is like super appreciative of it and actually put it into practice and got my feedback once you had put it into practice. I mean, I think that sort of speaks volumes about how much you guys care about your clients.
Yeah. I mean, here's the great thing is that, or the interesting thing, if you go through the program and you get great results and we document it, we do one of these interviews, amazing. It's fantastic. And it goes on to our client success stories. And it's another it's another example of a great track record. But if you go through the program, you have some challenges at different times or some questions, and you have some good constructive feedback. Well, now we could actually get better. And if we could then also still convert you to a raving fan, if you will, and get you great results, now that is the ultimate win because we improve the program for other people, we get really good feedback, and then we also still turn you into a success story. And that's what happened. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate you so much, is because I know that I'm better as a coach and that we're better as a company and a coaching program because you went through our program. And that just really touches me. And it's really something that I just want to say thank you for, because it means a lot to me that you were honest, you were upfront, you gave us that feedback, and we were able to improve. And I just feel so thankful and grateful for all the effort, the hard work, and everything that you put into this from that day forward. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, look, ultimately, like, I have goals that I want to achieve it. And it's funny you said, like, I think earlier I was going to correct you because you said to the finish, and like in my mind, I'm definitely not finished. Like, I have a lot more that I want to achieve. So yeah, really, grateful to be with you on that journey.
Well, I think that's an interesting thing that you said right there too, which is that I'm not finished. And that is a mindset, right? One of the mindsets that we like to talk about with our clients that is going to lead to long-term success, because clients who approach these kinds of programs, whether it's 16 weeks or 8 months or whatever it is, we obviously started with just 16 weeks, 4 months, and then we progressed on and we've been working together for the last 8 months or so. But when you have that idea that you're going to hit a finish line and it's all over, I'm going to raise my hands in celebration, and then I'm going to sort of wave the white flag, and I no longer need to work out or eat healthy or any of those things. That's a big problem. And we do have some people that'll go through our program and they kind of have that idea, and we try to shift it, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But if you have that mentality, you're going to get some success and you're going to have some results, but you're not going to be able to keep the results. So the fact that you're kind of like in this, like, constantly chasing and pursuing almost always a beginner mindset, wanting to improve, growth mindset, if you will, I think that is so crucial. And one of the reasons why you've been able to be so successful over not just a 3, 6, but 8 months now and continuing, and you're still getting better. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things, I can't remember exactly like what materials it was in, but one of the first things you sent me talked about the mindset and like the fact that the most successful people like it is a shift in mindset. Like, you have to shift your mindset to one of like, I am going to be a healthy, fit person. And that really resonated with me. And that was also one of sort of the motivating factors of hiring you as well.
Why did that resonate with you?
Well, I just don't think like any of the coaches or any of the trainers that I worked with before have ever really framed it like that. And so I think it was just really helpful to think about it from that perspective. And like, this is not just, as you said, this is not just like the next 30, 60, 90 days, whatever. Like, this is how I want to live my life going forward.
Absolutely. And I think when you shift that mindset and then identity, more importantly, that's when things become easy. And I often say, it starts with small wins and then big wins and momentum and a lifestyle. But once you get the identity, it's locked in forever. And I have the identity, right? I'm a fitness coach. So I think of myself in that way. I think of myself as a very healthy and fit person. So whether I go on vacation, whether we moved last month, whether I'm doing construction on my office like I'm doing right now, I'm going to figure out a way to maintain that identity no matter what. So I'm going to figure out a way to get some workouts in or get some steps or even run around the block or do push-ups. I'm going to figure out a way of eating relatively well and healthy. I'm not going to overdo it. I'm still going to drink my water. I'm not going to drink too much alcohol. All of those things. Those are identities. And when you hold on to them, again, successful for the long term. And you have to be willing to want to change that. And it's tough. One of my clients named Robin, she lost 100 pounds working with us. And at one point in her journey, she had to shift from being a person that she used to, like who she was essentially, to this different version of herself that she kind of used to make fun of and maybe not like so much, because she used to make fun of people who worked out all the time, especially on like vacation. She used to make fun of people who would eat healthy at restaurants. And she was becoming that person. And she's like, oh my God, I'm becoming the kind of person that I kind of used to make fun of. And that was a difficult confrontation. Did you have anything like that where you kind of were bumping up and going, whoa, this is who I was, this is who I want to be, and I'm having some confrontation.
You have to be willing to defend, like, frankly, like defend your choices, because there will be people who like, oh Matt, like why did you bring your scale? Like why are you measuring, why are you measuring what you're eating? Or like, do you really have to bring your like exercise equipment with you like on this trip? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like this is important to me. And so it's, yeah, so you do like, it kind of does put you in a position where you feel like you're having to justify it to other people, but you just like have to not care about that. Frankly, like you just have to do it because it's important to you.
Yeah, what made you not care about it? Was it that you cared? I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'll even shut up here. What made you like be able to do that? Because some people struggle with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm the kind of person, like when I set a goal for myself, I like will pursue it to the ends of the earth. So like maybe just my personality like makes it a little bit easier. But I also frankly think that like seeing the results like relatively quickly like helped convince myself that like I was doing the right thing, and therefore made it easier to justify it to other people. And it's actually interesting, like, I started in early February and I went with my wife for her birthday somewhere. And at one point, like during the trip, there was like, we took a picture with my shirt off. And this was like 6 weeks in. And I was shocked. Like I couldn't believe like what I looked like in the photo. And so that was super motivating to me. And, obviously like things have like slowed down a bit, but like to be expected, you obviously see the best, like the quickest gains at the beginning. But yeah, but like, I think seeing those results relatively quickly helped convince myself and helped reassure me that like I was doing the right thing, and like I didn't really care what anyone else said.
Yeah. I think it's important to see some progress early, right? Tony Robbins says progress equals happiness. But progress, when you see it, it gives you confidence in what you're doing. And when you have confidence in what you're doing, you're going to execute even more and with more conviction. And then you're going to push a little bit harder, and you're going to get more excited about it. And then it's going to build more momentum. And it kind of works like a flywheel. And then it starts to build on each other. And then next thing you know, you're kind of running at the speed of light. And it's like, holy cow, this is amazing. But it requires you to see some wins early. So the way we structured our program is such that people do get wins early. And one of the things that I think kills a lot of people when they get started on a new journey is whether it's expectations or just the structure of what they're doing, they're not seeing success. They do it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. And they're like, I thought I was going to see some results. I'm not seeing anything. They get frustrated and they quit and they give up. Now, I think part of that is not knowing how and what to track. I think that's part of it for sure. And not having a good structured program. And also probably a little bit with expectations too. So outside of that photo, what were some of the other kind of wins that you saw early on that kind of helped you in?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like the DEXA scans, because I started getting those, on a monthly basis. Thankfully, there's a company here called Body Spec where it's like very cheap. It's like $40 a month to get a DEXA scan. So I started doing that every month, and like, immediately started seeing, declines in fat, reductions in body fat percentage, increase in, lean mass. So that was even like, I think before I saw the visual changes, like I started to see that the numbers were improving. And I've continued to see that. Like you should feel free to share that table that I, have sent you, that kind of shows every single month, like how it's changed. And it's continued to move in the right direction.
Yeah, and if you're somebody who likes numbers and metrics and you like tracking things like I do, like Matt does, I have a Whoop on, so I love tracking things. So if you're that kind of person, a DEXA scan, if there's one that's even remotely close to you, is so worth it because it's going to give you an intense breakdown of your weight, your body fat, your bone density, your visceral fat, all of these factors. And it's going to give you a nice and a clear table. It gives you all these metrics. You can even see where the fat is on your body. And it's the gold standard. It's the closest thing we have to like as accurate as possible. It's still not 100% all the time, but it's the closest we have. And if you do that even every couple of months, it could be really, really useful for helping you build confidence in what you're doing, making adjustments to your plan with data-driven adjustments, and also just making sure that you're moving in the right direction. And if you're not, it's going to give you the kick in the butt to make some changes and to revise the plan.
Yeah, and I would just add, like, don't don't waste your time and money on the at-home scales, which purport to give you body fat percent. They're complete. They're not completely inaccurate. So
Completely inaccurate.
yeah,
Not
it's
even close to being
just a
accurate.
waste of money. So definitely advise all your clients not to spend their money on that.
We try to spread that message as like loudly as we possibly can, but it's still one of those things that people are like, oh, well, it's got to be somewhat accurate, right? And it's like, nope, it's not even close to being accurate. Honestly, photos are a better measure of body fat percentage than those scales are, those Bluetooth scales. But let's give some people some like tangible things. So we've been talking about a little bit of mindset and perspective and identity. What were maybe one or two things, even just one that you could think of off the top of your head, challenges that you faced, whether it was early on or not, that you had to overcome, and how did you do that?
Yeah, I'd say like the biggest challenge in the beginning was frankly just like the low carb intake, because in phase one, I think for my case it was like 30 grams of carbs, and comparing that to my diet previously, which was like 250 in a given day, so it was a huge change. And I'm pretty good at like controlling what I eat and like have willpower when it relates to eating, but it did basically mean that like I had to prepare all my meals myself just for me, because my wife and my kids would be eating something totally different. So for the first month or even 2 or even 3 months, like I was preparing basically all my food myself. um, my diet, like my macros have completely changed since then, so things have gotten a lot easier. But I think that was really important in the beginning to like to kickstart that loss in body fat and that reduction in body fat.
Yeah, and the reason why we do that is kind of what I was saying earlier, which is structuring progress early. So I had a choice to make when I started working with clients, and the choice was, as clients were paying me a lot of money at this time. I was working in person with clients, so they're paying me anywhere between 200 and 250 bucks per session per hour, and they wanted to see results. They wanted to see them quickly. And I had a decision. I could either start people with just a very moderate, balanced nutritional plan, which would absolutely still work, but takes longer to start seeing some success. Or we could go low carb pretty quick and fast. We can cut some water weight very early. We can see some visual changes. We can see the scale move. We can have more energy. Like it's pretty crazy what cutting carbs out will do. Your strength will go down a little bit often, but there's a lot of positives very quick, and people get excited about that. So the way I structured things was to cut those down early, which helps to really lean people down, lose the water weight, lose the bloat, all of that, see some successes early, and then we scale those carbohydrates in over time, which allows you to create a super compensation effect with the muscles to really build out and fill up your muscles even more. So that's kind of what we structured with the program. But the downside is that you have to go low carb for a period of time in the beginning, and everybody doesn't always do it. It depends on the individual. Depends on how committed they are, how hard they want to go. It depends on a number of factors. But you were in it to win it, so I was like, okay, we're going to go full bore with this guy. And you mentioned you had to do some of the meals by yourself, or at least most of the meals by yourself early on. How did you manage that? Because that's another kind of, it's a common thing for a lot of people, is like, oh, well, I can't not eat what my family's eating, and I don't have a choice. They almost victimize themselves saying, I have to eat this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just it took preparation. I think you had a number of videos about sort of doing mass meal prep. Um, I started off doing chicken breast in the oven, and quickly learned that like it was not so appetizing. So I found other methods, and but it basically did take preparation. And I leveraged like certain like there's we go to Trader Joe's and they have like cauliflower rice, which is like super easy. It's already it's just frozen and it's super easy to cook. And yeah, just like kind of little hacks like that here and there kind of definitely made things easier. But it definitely was not easy. Like the first 3 months, I think the diet is really challenging.
Yeah. Another reason why we make things a little bit more challenging in the beginning is because people's motivation and drive is usually highest in the beginning. So we want to kind of take advantage of that before things kind of start to lag a little bit or slow down. So by structuring things that way, we take advantage of that motivation wave. And then as we continue on, then things get a little bit easier. We increase the calories. We do a typical reverse diet where we take the elevator down and then the stairs up. So we cut the calories hard at first to see really fast, quick results. Then we take the stairs up and we slowly increase the calories, increase the protein, increase the carbohydrates over time, and bring you back to what we consider like a normal maintenance level macros. And obviously for the last number of months, you've been more or less around those maintenance levels, doing what we call body recomposition, where we're just pretty much trying to exchange fat for muscle, where we're reducing the body fat, adding on a little bit of muscle. And we do that right around maintenance calories. And you absolutely have to get an adequate amount of carbohydrates at that point to fuel those workouts and really drive the muscle growth. So that's kind of what we've been doing recently.
Yeah, and sorry, I was just going to add, like, since we've been doing that, I've still been seeing like some pretty like positive changes. And so yeah, so the recomposition does seem to still be working quite well, even at that maintenance. And I think I'm even maybe on like the upper end of maintenance at this point. But yeah, still going well.
Yeah, you've been doing an incredible job, man. So that was one challenge, which was the feed or the food thing. So what were maybe one or two other challenges that you could think of, and then how did you overcome those for people kind of listening?
I'd say two more. One was just like making the time to do the workouts, and honestly, for that, I just I just waking up earlier. I wake up at 5:30 now, and start working out by 6 a.m. and finish usually by 7. But yeah, you just have to make the time for it. And I do go to bed earlier too, in order to get adequate sleep. Like I used to go to bed usually between like 10:30 and 11, but now I usually go to bed between 9:30 and 10. So it does take some sacrifice, but that's I guess to be expected. I think the other thing that was a challenge, and I think this is later, this is like probably in like phase 3 or 4, was I did start to kind of get, you and I've chatted about this a bit, like low level injuries, like, I kind of tweaked my wrist a little bit. I tweaked my neck a little bit. But I think something that you said really resonated, which was like, better to have those issues than the issues of like being in poor health, like in general. So I have had those little issues here and there, but one of the reasons that I've continued to work with you guys is because you do adjust the workouts to take account of those in order to avoid like irritating them or exacerbating them. So that's another challenge.
Time is always going to be one of those issues for people, and it really comes down to, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and they were kind of talking about time, and I asked them a similar question, how did you make time for this? And they said, you make time for things that are important for you. And you could think of a simple example. I have a 5-month-old, and I think it was like a week ago, I had a packed schedule. I had a bunch of stuff I had to do, and he wasn't feeling well. In fact, he started crying uncontrollably. We couldn't figure out what was wrong. And immediately I looked at my wife and I was like, we got to take him to the doctor. We got to take him to the urgent care right now. So everything that we had on the schedule got immediately dropped, and we went to the urgent care, and we spent an hour in the urgent care and took care of that, and then had to get a medication and go to the pharmacy and get a prescription. He had an ear infection. He's fine. He's good now. But all of that went to the wayside because that took precedence, and that was a priority. That was important to us. So important that we cleared our schedules for whatever we had going on the rest of that afternoon. When your health and your fitness are important to you, when you're not just doing it for yourself, but as you mentioned, you're doing it for your family, for your kids. You're doing it so you can be around a very long time, and you could be an active participant in your life with your family and friends. Well, now that becomes a little bit more important. It becomes important to prioritize those workouts 3-4 times a week. And if you're, I'd say, a little bit methodical with your time and strategic, it's not that hard to carve out 3 or 4 hours per week to work out. I mean, people spend that much time on Instagram, TikTok, watching Netflix for sure. So you can carve out that time. You can make time for it if it's important to you. So I think that's something important to really call out. And you shared in the beginning all the reasons why you wanted to do this. And I'm guessing that made those decisions to wake up a little earlier pretty easy, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Once I started, I got super into it, and I actually was disappointed on the days when I wouldn't have a workout, like on my rest days. And I still feel like that actually, even 8 months later. And like, to the extent that now I've got Emily to give me 5 like proper workout days plus a 6th day of just abs. So now I'm working out 6 out of 7 days because I do miss it when I don't do it.
That is the power of identity right there. When you don't do it, you don't feel right. And that's how you know you are totally locked in and like you're good. You could go on vacation, you could move, you could miss 2 weeks and you're going to come back to it because you're not going to feel like yourself without it. That's how you know you've really dialed it in and locked it in, Matt. So that's a huge win. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Congratulations that you're not feeling like yourself if you don't work out. That's great. Let's talk about some like maybe some wins or some kind of things that were pretty exciting as you went through. You talked about the photo that you took and seeing it and going, wow, holy cow. And you talked about some of the kind of, weight loss and some of the changes early on. What were some other kind of wins or like moments that you go, oh my gosh, like this is happening, or oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is really exciting outside of the DEXA scan and the photo?
I think it was in May. So this was like 3 months after I started. And I went to, so I work remotely like 100% of the time. But in May, we had a company offsite. So I went to this offsite and like, colleagues can sometimes be a little bit wary about like commenting on your appearance, obviously, like, it could be a dodgy subject. But one of my colleagues was like, he's like, oh my God, Matt, like, what did you do? Like, and he couldn't believe like how different I looked. And so we got into this, and like the whole table then got into this whole conversation. I started telling them about the tonal and you and everything that I was doing. And so, yeah, so getting, and, and I continued to get those kinds of reactions like throughout the course of that event. So that was definitely very motivating. Just kind of recognizing that people saw, the fact that I had changed like quite significantly. And I'm trying to think of anything else. Like, yeah, I think it's really just like the feedback from like my family, and yeah, and continue seeing the numbers and the photos. I've been very consistent about taking the photos every 2 weeks. And as we kind of said, like, it can be hard to see. Sometimes it can be hard to see the change from like between the 2 weeks and the one later. But if you look over a period of months, it's like very obvious what the change has been.
Absolutely. And it's fun because, we don't do it for the external validation of people saying, oh my God, you look amazing or anything else. But when it happens, it's really exciting. And when it happens,
actually,
hold
sorry
on
to
to it.
interrupt you. I just remembered one other thing. So the other thing that was really motivating was I had a blood test done in January before I started, and as I said, like some of the numbers weren't great. I then had another one done in June. So this was like literally right after I finished the 16 weeks. Significant improvement.
Matt, so tell me, were there any other things that were motivating to you?
Yeah. One of the things that has actually been super motivating, and I know like you often say don't pay too much attention to this, but the strength score on the tonal, when I first started it, I did the initial calibration, and I think the score was around like 315, which I think was around like the 31st percentile for men on the device. Currently, it's now up to I think around 840, and which is now I think like the 85th or 86th percentile. And that's continued to go up. I'm still seeing it consistently go up pretty much like every single workout. So, obviously tremendous amount of progress, and it's kind of crazy to think that like, oh, like I'm quote unquote stronger than like 86% of, other guys who have the tonal at this point. So that's been pretty cool.
That is very cool. That's crazy. That is a huge, massive improvement. And the other thing is that you're not a lot lighter, but you are lighter than you were before. So not only have you improved, like you've improved relative strength, but you've improved your absolute strength tremendously. And obviously that correlates and tracks really well with the fact that you've added on so much muscle. I think it was like 23 pounds or whatever of muscle along the process. So you've gotten a hell of a lot stronger, significantly stronger than the majority of people using the tonal. And then on top of it, added on a bunch of muscle in this process. Yeah, that's going to be pretty motivating and exciting. Wow, that's incredible. And again, these are kind of things, they feel like external validators, but they're so motivating because they reinforce all the hard work all that you've done. The waking up at 5:30, which, it's not fun to wake up at 5:30, but you do it, you get it in, and you're in the process, you're head down, you're doing all the stuff, you're tracking the food, doing all the stuff. And then you get somebody that says, oh my gosh, Matt, what have you been doing? And it's like, wow, yes, this is working. Like it gives you that kind of kick in the butt in a very positive way that's like, yes, yes, let me keep going with this. And then you get the blood test done and it's like, oh my God, yeah, this is another win. And then you get the DEXA scan. And there's all these little kind of wins that you start stacking up over time. And that's what gets you to keep pushing. And that's what keeps you motivated, keeps you energized, keeps you in the game. And the next thing you know, 8 months later, you're still crushing it, getting great results and saying, hey, can I have 5 and 6 workouts? It really just builds on it.
And one other thing to add, like at some point, I don't know exactly when it happened, but my back pain went away. Like I don't have that pain anymore when I pick up my kids. So, and that was, as I said, that was one of the catalysts of it. So, to realize that has been really great as well.
Yeah, the thing that resonated with me or stuck out to me the most was in the review that you wrote for our program, is that you said that you really struggled with your confidence before when you would take your shirt off, and now you feel just confident taking your shirt off, and you feel really good about yourself when you do, and that really touches me because when I think about somebody who goes out there and doesn't feel like they can be themselves or doesn't feels like almost less than if they take their shirt off or they go to a pool or a party or something and they have this self-conscious and kind of this almost this cloud or monkey on their back kind of the whole time. It just feels like such a handicap almost. And me, I was really thin when I was a kid. So I had a bit of a different problem than a lot of people have, where I was very, very thin, very skinny, and I would get made fun of for being too thin, being skinny, being like a beanpole, and I would get pushed around and even beat up a little bit. And I was always like, I need to fix this. I need to get big. I need to get strong because I didn't feel good about myself. And finding the gym and exercise and strength training and all of these things, it really gave me so much confidence. It helped me learn about myself. It helped me become the man I am today. So when I read that from you, I just get so excited. Tell me about it. Like, how does it feel to now be in that situation?
Yeah, no, I mean, I very similar kind of situation with me. Like, always been very, very skinny, until probably my 30s. When your metabolism slows down a little bit, you start to put on more fat. So, but very, very similar situation, was like always very skinny and felt very self conscious about it. But yeah, but the funny thing is, like, to the extent that I literally never ever wore a tank top, like literally never, until after starting with you and like doing the program. And now I'm actually like more than happy to like actually like to kind of show off a little bit. But yeah, like that would have, like, I never would have imagined that I would have felt like that, before kind of starting this. So
That's fantastic. You said one thing that kind of stuck out to me, and I wanted to follow up with. You said getting some feedback, positive feedback from your family. What kind of positive feedback have you gotten from your family, and what has this meant to them?
yeah, I mean, definitely my parents have said, they did notice that I've slimmed down a lot. Not getting the comments about needing to lose weight. Obviously my wife has definitely noticed it. She certainly appreciates me being more muscular. And yeah, I think that's, it's fun. Yeah. I mean, my kids, I think they're a little bit too young to really notice, but yeah, but in general, like the feedback's been super positive.
Amazing. Well, I want to say thank you to you, Matt, not only for doing this interview and sharing your story, but for all the hard work that you put in, for giving us the constructive feedback in the beginning of the program when you did, for everything that you've invested, the getting up early, the getting after the workouts, submitting the exercise form reviews that you did to get feedback on your technique and improve. You've put so much into this, and that's why you've gotten so much out. And I just appreciate the hell out of you, man. I'm just so happy and so thankful that our paths crossed. And I'm so grateful for you to be in our program and to have gone through this because it just touches me. And I'm just really grateful for you. Thank you, Matt. I really do appreciate you so much, man. I'm so glad that we got a chance to work together.
Yeah, me too. And as I said, I think there's still a journey to go. So looking forward to it.
So what's next for you?
Yeah, I just want to keep making progress. I don't know. I mean, I'm at the 18.4% right now. Would love to get that down a little bit more. Would love to put on a bit more lean mass. Yeah, and just keep moving forward and stay healthy and stick with it.
Okay, final two quick questions. First one, was this all worth it?
Absolutely, yes.
The last question is, let's say there's somebody out there and maybe they're on the fence about starting a fitness program. Maybe they want to join our program, and they're like, gosh, Matt's amazing. He did all this stuff, but I don't know if I could do that. What do you say to somebody out there who's maybe stuck, who's kind of in that same situation that you were in, feeling like they're spinning their wheels, maybe unsure if it can happen for them? What do you say to that person?
I mean, I'd say to give it a shot. Like, at least give it your best shot. Hopefully, you'll start to see results relatively quickly, like I did. But you won't know unless you try. But you do have to be committed to it. Like, you do have to be willing to put in the effort. I mean, I think, like, and you said this many times. Like, unless you're willing to put in the effort, it's kind of all for nothing. So I think it's really, really critical that you have to be willing to make the commitment and to do the work. I actually, you can't see it; it's blurred out right now. But I do have a sign that I put up on my wall that says do the effing work." So that's kind of been my mantra.
Fantastic, Matt. Again, I would just want to say thank you. I really appreciate everything. You shared a ton of amazing nuggets for people, from mindset and identity to making progress and building on that momentum. I mean, just a lot of really great stuff here. So if people listen to this, I think they have some really great base foundational information to start making some positive changes in their lives. So thank you for sharing all of that. Thank you for joining us. And any final last words?
No, just thank you. Yeah, really excited about the transformation and looking forward to continuing to work together.
All right, everybody, you heard the man. Action is the difference. So take action today, because that's the difference between dreaming and succeeding.